The 50th Education Squadron is an inactive squadron of the United States Air Force. It was last active at the United States Air Force Academy, Colorado, where it was inactivated in August 2005. Formed in August 1917 as the 50th Aero Squadron, the unit flew observation missions in the American-built de Haviland DH-4 over the battlefields of World War I. On 6 October 1918, 1 LT Harold E. Goethals and 2 LT Erwin R. Bleckley of the 50th Aero Squadron were posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor during World War II as the 431st Bombardment Squadron. The unit earned the Distinguished Unit Citation and the Presidential Unit Citation for its services in the Pacific Theater. The unit was subsequently inactivated on 20 October 1947. Overview. The squadron was reactivated at the United States Air Force Academy on 1 October 1983 and designated the 50th Airmanship Training Squadron. Today, the focus of the 50th is in the classroom, supporting the instruction of U.S. Air Force Academy cadets in military strategic studies. History. World War I. The unit was first organized as the 50th Aero Squadron with 149 men at Kelly Field No. 1, Texas, on 6 August 1917. Moved to Kelly Field No. 2 on 12 September and designated as a school squadron. Personnel entering training for engine mechanics and performed field garrison duties, was moved back to Field No. 1 on 17 November and was designated a service squadron, being equipped with Curtiss JN-4 aircraft and pilots, and entered training for combat service in France. On 20 December 1917, the 50th transferred from Kelly Field and ordered for overseas duty. It moved to the Aviation Concentration Center, Camp Mills, Garden City, New York and arrived on 3 January 1918. Departed from the United States on Transport No. 508 RMS Carmania on 9 January, arriving Liverpool, England on 24 January. Once in England, the 50th was moved to RFC Harlexton, Lincolnshire and began advanced training prior to being sent to France. Instruction was received in aircraft rigging and engine repair, along with gunnery, radio, photography and aerial bombing. Combat in France. C. Erwin R. Bleckley, Harold E. Goethals. Lost Battalion departure orders for France were received on 3 July 1918, the squadron departing from the port of Southampton, arriving in Le Havre, France on 14 July. Entered service with the Air Service AF at St. Maixent Aerodrome on 17 July. After receiving additional personnel, supplies and equipment, was moved to the Combat Flying School at Amanti Aerodrome for aerial observers on 27 July. At Amanti, the squadron received American-built de Haviland DH-4 and after training was received on the DH-4S. The squadron was designated as a Corps Observation Squadron and assigned to the 1st Corps Observation Group. It moved to Bickley Aerodrome on 8 September for combat duty on the front. The squadron adopted the Dutch Girl insignia, trademark of Old Dutch Cleanser. To the flyers of the 50th Aero Squadron, the Dutch Girl meant one thing: clean up on Germany. The insignia was painted on the aircraft, and squadron members wore matching pins above the right breast pocket on the uniforms. In combat, the mission of the 50th Aero Squadron was general surveillance of the enemy rear areas by means of both visual and photographic reconnaissance. These missions were carried out for the purpose of intelligence gathering and informing 1st Army Headquarters informed of enemy movements and preparations for attacks or retreats of its infantry forces. The 50th identified enemy activity along roads and railroads, ground ground stations, various storage dumps and airfields, the numbers of fires and activities of enemy aircraft, and the amount of anti-aircraft artillery was also monitored and reported. Due to the nature of the missions and the depths of enemy area which was penetrated, the missions were carried out at high altitudes, usually between 4,500 and 5,500 meters. The 50th's first combat mission was flown on the 12th of September, being assigned for observation duties in support of the 82d and 90th Infantry Divisions as part of the St. Mihiel offensive. It flew 2 artillery surveillance flights to help adjust the artillery barrage on enemy forces for the 90th Division, and also 6 reconnaissance missions, observing and photographing enemy forces in the rear areas and reporting that information to the 82d Division commander. The weather during the offensive, however, was extremely poor. Fortunately, the enemy air activity was very slight at the beginning of the offensive, but a day or two afterwards, there was a marked increase in enemy activity. 1 observer was killed in action, and 1 plane with its observer and pilot failed to return during the offensive. After St. Mihiel, the squadron moved to the Rimacourt Aerodrome in preparation for the next American offensive in the Argonne Forest. There it joined the 1st and 12th Aero Squadrons. Movement to Rimacourt was delayed until the 24th of September due to weather. On the 26th, combat operations began supporting the 77th Division. The 50th Aero Squadron flew its first missions of the Meuse-Argonne offensive with a complement of 15 pilots, 15 observers, and 16 aircraft. Initially, the aircraft flew observation and dropped messages. At the beginning of October, units of the 308th Infantry Regiment were cut off and surrounded by German troops, able to communicate with division headquarters only by carrier pigeon. The battalion-sized force inadvertently supplied division headquarters with incorrect coordinates of its location. On the 2nd of October, the 50th Aero Squadron searched for signs of the cut-off battalion, and on the 5th of October the division commander, Marge. Gen. Robert Alexander, requested that the 50th Aero Squadron locate and resupply the lost battalion by air with ammunition, rations, and medical supplies. On the 28th of October, the squadron was moved from Rimacourt to the new aerodrome at Clermont-en-Argonne, where it continued combat operations until the 11th of November armistice with Germany. Post-World War I duty in France. After the end of hostilities, the air service in France was slow to bring the units back to the United States. Transportation was poor, and many had to wait months to board a ship. The 50th was no exception, as it was split into flights and assigned to various locations in France, performing post-war service duties. With the inactivation of the 1st Army Air Service, the 50th Aero Squadron was ordered demobilized. It was ordered to report to the 1st Air Depot at Colombey-les-Belles Aerodrome on the 1st of April 1919, to turn in all of its supplies and equipment, and was relieved from duty with the AER. The squadron's DH-4 aircraft were delivered to the Air Service Production Center No. 2, at Romorantin Aerodrome. Practically all of the pilots and observers were detached from the squadron. Personnel at Colombey were subsequently assigned to the Commanding General Services of Supply and ordered to report to the staging camp at Clamart, France on the 9th of April. Their personnel awaited scheduling to report to one of the base ports in France for transport to the United States. It moved to the port of Marseille, France, the 22nd of April when it boarded the SS Caserta. Upon its arrival in New York, the squadron proceeded to Scott Field, Illinois, arriving on the 27th of May where its personnel were discharged and returned to civilian life. World War I honors, combat sectors and campaigns. Notable personnel. Lt. Erwin Russell Bleckley Medal of Honor, LT Harold Ernest Goettler Medal of Honor, DSC Distinguished Service Cross, SSC Silver Star Citation, Kia killed in action interwar era. A small cadre of the squadron remained at Scott Field until August 1919, when it was moved to Langley Field, Virginia. At Langley, it received a Haviland DH-4 and was assigned to the 2D Observation Wing headquarters. It was assigned to coastal and submarine patrol duties along the Atlantic coast. On the 1st of October it was attached to the 1st Army Observation Group. It remained active with the 2D Wing and performed demonstrations of effectiveness of aerial bombardment on naval warships. June to September 1921. Reassigned to Mexican border in 1927 as an aerial observation squadron at Brooks Field, San Antonio, Texas, before inactivation on 1 August 1927. The designation was then transferred to the Office of Chief of the Air Corps, organized in December 1927 with organized reserve personnel as a regular Army inactive unit at Dodd Field, Texas. Relieved from assignment to OCAC 1 September 1928. Organized reserve officers assigned to the unit participated in summer training at Kelly Field in 1928. Designated mobilization training station was Dodd Field, 1927-29. Withdrawn from the 8th Corps area on 27 October 1928 and allotted to the 2nd Corps area. Assigned on 13 February 1929 to the 9th Observation Group. Relieved from assignment to the 9th Observation Group on 8 May 1929 and assigned to the 5th Composite Group. Organized on 27 May 1929 with organized reserve personnel as a rare unit at Mitchell Field, New York. The 50th Observation Squadron was reactivated into active service as an aerial observation and defensive patrol squadron off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii Territory, 1930. Remained in Hawaii as part of the Army Hawaiian Department throughout the 1930s as part of the air defenses of the islands. In 1938 it was redesignated as a medium-range reconnaissance squadron, being attached to the 5th Bombardment Group and equipped with B-18 Bolo twin-engine bombers. Was attached to the 11th Bombardment Group in February 1940. Beginning in early 1941, the squadron transitioned into the Boeing B-17D Flying Fortress, having the capability to fly longer reconnaissance missions from Hickam Field. World War II. Following the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on 7 December 1941, the 50th was redesignated the 431st Bombardment Squadron. In June 1942, shortly after the Battle of Midway, the 11th Group was authorized as a mobile force by the Army Air Forces in order to respond to a Navy request by Admiral Nimitz for long-range armed search planes support for locating Japanese fleets and with firepower to withstand defending Japanese fighter attacks while tracking the fleet. As a mobile group, the 11th Group received authorization to leave Hickam Field to support Navy operations in the South Pacific Theater during the Guadalcanal and Northern Solomon Islands campaigns. As part of the 11th Bomb Group, the squadron moved to the New Hebrides on the 22nd of July 1942 and temporarily becoming part of 13th Air Force the end of 1942. They bombed airfields, supply dumps, ships, docks, troop positions, and other objectives in the South Pacific from July to November 1942, and received a Distinguished Unit Citation for those operations. Continued operations attacking Japanese airfields, installations, and shipping until late March 1943. The squadron returned to Hickam Field on 8 April 1943 and was reassigned to 7th Air Force. Following this, the 11th Bomb Group received the consolidated B-24 Liberator bombers, which it flew until the end of the war. While in Hawaii, the group refitted and trained with the B-24, flying combat training missions against Wake Island and other Central Pacific bases held by the Japanese. It deployed to Ellis Island on 9 November 1943 and resumed combat, participating in the Allied offensive through the Gilbert, Marshall and Marianas Islands, while operating from Funafuti, Tarawa and Kwajalein. Moved to Guam on 25 October 1944 and attacked shipping and airfields in the Volcano and Bonin Islands. Moved to Okinawa on 2 July 1945 to participate in the final phases of the air offensive against Japan, bombing railways, airfields, and harbor facilities on Kyushu and striking Japanese airfields in eastern China. After the war ceased, the group flew reconnaissance and surveillance missions to China and ferried liberated prisoners of war from Okinawa to Luzon, Philippines. The unit earned the Distinguished Unit Citation and the Presidential Unit Citation for its services in the Pacific. Post-war era. After VJ Day, most squadron members returned to the United States and demobilized. On 29 April 1946, the squadron was redesignated as the 5th Reconnaissance Squadron, and assigned to Headquarters, U.S. Army Forces, Pacific at Fort William McKinley, Luzon, Philippines. Transferred to the 313th Bombardment Wing at Clark Field. The 5th was equipped with F-13 Superfortress S, F-7A Liberators S and a few F-9B Flying Fortresses S equipped for long-range photography and mapping, which had operated from Australia during the war. The squadron's mission was to perform aerial photography and mapping over the Southwest Pacific, Southeast Asia, Korea, Japan, Philippines, Formosa, and the Pescadores. 1946-1947, some missions being clandestine over northern China, northern Korea and the Soviet Union. The squadron began phasing down for inactivation in 1947, with it being inactivated on 20 October 1947. Modern era. The squadron was reactivated at the United States Air Force Academy on 1 October 1983 and designated the 50th Airmanship Training Squadron. In November 1994, the squadron was redesignated as the 50th Training Squadron. In 1994, the unit earned its 4th Air Force Outstanding Unit Award, 3 of them consecutively in its time at the Academy. The summer of 1997 saw the last flight of the Boeing T-43A for the squadron, with a change in direction for the squadron mission and a loss of funding for the Baikliang base unit, which supported T-43 operations. In January 2001, the squadron was redesignated the 50th Education Squadron, reflecting the squadron's change in mission, lineage. Redesignated 431st Bombardment Squadron, Heavy Sea. Inactivated on 1 August 2005. Assignments: Post Headquarters, Kelly Field, 6 August 1917. Aviation Concentration Center, 3 January 1918. Air Service Headquarters, AF, British Isles, 24 January 1918. Attached to Royal Flying Corps for training, 24 January 3 July 1918. Replacement Concentration Center, AF, 17 to 27 July 1918. 1st Corps Observation Group, 8 September 1918. 1st Air Depot, 1 April 1919. Commanding General, Services of Supply, April to May 1919. Post Headquarters, Mitchell Field, the 1st of May 1919. Post Headquarters, Scott Field, the 27th of May 1919. Post Headquarters, Langley Field, the 1st of August 1919. 2D Wing, September 1919. Attached to 1st Army Observation Group, the 1st of October 1919. 1st Army Observation Group, the 24th of May 1920. Attached to 1st Provisional Air Brigade, 6 May 3 October 1921. 2nd Wing, the 8th of August 1922. Attached to Air Service Field Officers School, the 8th of August 1922. Air Corps Training Center, June 1 August 1927. Regular Army Inactive Reserve. Attached to 9th Observation Group. Attached to 5th Composite Group, the 8th of May 1929. 5th Composite Group, the 1st of November 1930. Hawaiian Department, United States Army. Attached to 11th Bombardment Group, the 1st of February 1940. 11th Bombardment Group, the 25th of February 1942. U.S. Army Forces, Pacific, the 29th of April 1946. 313th Bombardment Wing, the 15th of June 1946. 5th Reconnaissance Group, 3 February 20 October 1947. 34th Education Group, the 1st of October 1983 present.